Please try to get the copy of the book written by Most Reverend Dr. Hassan. There are so many of them, about 4. Try to get 1 copy or 2 for yourself. They are quite cheap. They're not expensive. Thank you very much. We'll take photographs. The Lord just you, please join. The Red Universities, INEC, Logistics, Chaplain.
No, so that the other one.
Agawisi, Agawai. Please can step up here.
Save video now.
Let's look back a bit. Please.
Yeah.
Is 3,000. Reflection of Shiva is 5,000. Witness to the hard copies. Thank you very much. The books are available. Remember that we have a session and the parents are helped us. We have Sir who is one of the parents. We have OCIP, the chairman of the branch of MPA, who is here with us. And the moderator of the planning session for us is our electrical and
If you go front, thing will see you. Now only if you go front, thing will see you.
Thank you, Lord.
Alpha. No, no. I say if I go front, make you see him.
Thank you. Thank you. I'd like to recognize some personalities that have joined us in this event today. We have here with us Dr. Johnson, the Resident Electoral Commissioner of INEC in Rivers State, who is here with us. He also extended his invitation last week, and we are deeply necessary to do with us. Sir, you are ready. Thank you for coming. We also have with us Mr. Douglas Chiku, FNIM, the Administrative Secretary of River State Independent Electoral. Ladies and gentlemen, we have with us Honorable Justice Dr. Tima Gabriel Kido, the Judge of Harcourt of River State, who is here with us. We also have with us Honorable Justice Rita Gboko, the Judge of the River State High Court, and a sister of this order. Adela mentioned Sahichi Belu, SAP, Knight of St. and OCI. To recognize the district commanders of the C48 and the C50 and other districts that are here with us, the worthy presidents and the respected presidents of the districts and the thank you for coming, and of course the grand officers that are here with us. I am going to invite on the moderation of the panel session, which is starting right about now. Ladies and gentlemen, I shall invite to take up this moderating the panel, Adora, PhD, student, Jack.
Thank you very much. I'm sure it has been an amazing session. Just earlier had a lot was met and a lot was brought to bear. We thank again indefatigable keynote speaker, Most Reverend Dr. Martin Akakuka. And he spoke intentionally. He spoke about how nations are transformed not simply by policies, but by conversations like this that awaken consciousness and conscience, and also change complacency and inspire courageous action. And he has given the church a running responsibility to lead from the forward. And that's exactly what he has brought us to bear. Intentional leadership, inclusive governance, and being able to speak truth and accountability to power. So we thank him again for his kind but very relevant words. And going forward, in the words of Edward Burke, one is a political philosopher who is very conversational, and he says the only thing necessary for triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing. And that's exactly what this thing talks about: faith, citizenship, and the future of Nigeria, all to electoral responsibility and good governance. And we are taking this conversation because Nigeria stands at such a defining moment, and our future can not only be determined solely by those who seek elective offices. We've agreed that this is not a political convention, but it will be equally great to have citizens shape and choose integrity over indifference, particularly on participation over apathy, and principle over expediency. And that's why when we talk about faith, it calls us beyond the walls of worship and religion and into the marketplace for public responsibility. So without much further ado, we're also looking at bringing our panelists forward. And I want to commend the Knights of St. John International because this has been a steadfast way of promoting discipline, service, and Christian witnessing through social conversations like this. And I am really privileged to be here to witness it because this already sets the pace for what is expected by the populace, by citizenship, when we talk about, citizens' participation. I would like to bring forward for my panel, because they represent a distinguished convergence of public service, academia and governance, and civic leadership, as well as law. And these voices have not only studied the challenges, but have also confronted issues that our nations have dealt with actively when we talk about advancing solutions. So they are very credible, they come with experience and sound advice. So as I call them, I would like to welcome them forward to the podium to please take their seats and also be able to bring to bear this conversation. Please join me in welcoming Honorable Justice Rita Kituru Ogugo, who is a distinguished judge in my court of real estate. Please welcome her forward. She's renowned for her judicial clarity, administrative intelligence, and unwavering commitment to constitutional justice. I would also like to welcome to the panel Comrade O.C. Mayaki Esquire. Please, if he's here, please, can we put a round of applause for him as he comes forward? He's a Nigerian legal practitioner and human rights advocate, and of course we know the former chairman of the Nigerian Bar Association, Oyibo branch in River State. I would also like to call forward Honorable Justice Adolfo Enebeli. If he's here, please, can we welcome him forward? Now, this jury is a jury served by the hearts of many, especially women. And I'm saying it because, of course, it was the juries in the River State High Court of PortHarcourt who sentenced to death, if you remember, the man who was serially killing women in PortHarcourt, River State, Baker's David West, as we remember it back then. So please, another round of applause for him. Now, I was sitting back there and I was speaking to my mothers behind me, and I said, I'm not a woman. The JP speak. I mean, she just started there looking beautiful. And I said, if he doesn't speak, I raise my hand. Because when Most Reverend was talking, he talked about inclusion and equal participation. And when I heard her speak, I said yes. And she spoke very flowery, and she reached the Most Reverend longevity without infirmity. And I think that was what struck me. So please always remember that we had that touch. I would also like to welcome forward. He's also a member of my panel. If they can bring him forward, I think it's outside. Brigadier General PFK, if you can please make a well to the panel with the Grand President of PortHarcourt, Grand Commander. Please, a round of applause for him as he comes forward as well. Please, a round of applause for my panelists. Very distinguished in their own rights. So while we wait for the Grand President to arrive and take his seat, I think I would first start with, of course, the only lady on the panel, permit me, ladies first. And so when we think about faith, really, and if you listen to the keynote speaker, Most Reverend, when he was speaking, and he spoke to a lot of things about truth, about accountability, about inclusion, about deliberateness, you know, even from a faith perspective. But when you are thinking about the intersection of faith and public leadership, which has always perhaps shaped nations in profound ways, bringing it down to the Nigerian context, how can we look at faith, you know, communicating, moving beyond moral exhortation and becoming an active catalyst for perhaps responsible citizenship? Because again, people look up to the church a lot, people look up to religious communities a lot. How can that become a catalyst going forward? Thank you.
Thank you, Aurora. It's a pleasure seeing you in person. I always see you on Kakaki. I'm a fan of especially this one in Kakaki social media. So I enjoy your presentation. Thank you. When the Lord was speaking, something I got from Faith and Citizen, a quotation I took from him, which I want to base my comment on it. He said, "It is we who are Christians, and I will say by extension Catholics, and who have not learned up tenets of Christianity that has produced people who have destroyed the earth. Meaning, it is the Christians, it is that refused to follow the tenets of the law. The tenets of law here does not only mean the Bible, including the statutory books of law. When you refuse to adhere to same as a citizen of the nation, not move on. And to that, I'll link it to electoral responsibility. As a Catholic, a faith-based person, and as a citizen, it is expected that one should be electorally responsible. And when I talk of electoral responsibility, I mean adherence to the tenets of the law as regards election. This does not only imply one participating in election by voting or being voted for, but by also following the rules. The laws, the Constitution and the Electoral Act, make provision for electoral offences. Specifically, if you look at section 221 to 227 of the Constitution, it provides for some electoral offences that has to do with organizations carrying on as a political party. And I feel that as a citizen, as a Catholic who is faith-based, it behoves on us to adhere to this. Then aside from that, the Electoral Act itself provides for several offences. And as somebody who is faith-based, a Catholic, if you adhere to this and avoid those offences, you'll be doing a lot of good to yourself, to the church, and to the nation as a whole. And these offences range from pre-election offences like registration offences, when you register for someone else, or when you camouflage as someone else and hold someone's electoral voters' papers, or during election, people we know that generally there is a lot of vote buying and vote selling. But as a Catholic, you refuse to go by this way. Then you are indeed practicing your faith, you are indeed being a responsible citizen, and you are indeed promoting electoral responsibility, which does the country a lot of good. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's a round of applause for her. So, responsible citizenship, starting by example from within the faith. Now, you let that out there. All right. Let me come to Comrade Symposium and Squire. And I want to speak to the mention of the Constitution by his lordship when he was talking about citizens' participation, freedom of expression. And he spoke about the Constitution guaranteeing both freedom of religious and democratic participation. So, my question is, how can Nigeria, for instance, ensure faith inspires ethical leadership without allowing religious identity to become a tool for political division? Because I'm speaking to the theme of this symposium, and that's where I'm leveraging that from. How do we begin to look at that as important, that faith inspires ethical leadership without allowing religious identity to become a tool for political division, or let's say electoral manipulation?
Well, thank you very much. I think what his lordship, the keynote speaker, actually was talking about, generally, if I ask him to summarize, is actually talking about Christian participation. That we should not just stand by the side and do nothing. And at the end of the day, we begin to complain. I can tell you that that is actually the attitude of most Nigerians. That's the attitude of most Nigerians. We complain without doing nothing. I think what he has just said is that we should complain and do something. And then again, I ask myself this: Nigerians, do we really want to complain without doing nothing? Or something has inhibited, or something has happened, something has stopped us from doing something? And I think, and I firmly believe that there are external forces stopping Nigeria from doing something. By extension to Christians, something is involved. Who are the people that are involved? The politicians, the executive. Now, if you look at my own lecture, was actually titled Citizenship, Participation of Voting Beyond Ethnicity and Religion. Voting beyond ethnicity. How can you actually do that? If you look at our foundation, the very first election before independence, that was 1989. That election was based on religious faith. Even the political party that started our independence, they were all original faith. Talk about the NCS, the Action Group, they were all original faith. That is actually our problem. The Bible says, what can the righteous do when the foundation is strong? The foundation we started with, yes, I agree with my Lord, but the foundation we started with is actually causing our problem. Now, Nigeria is divided. There's no doubt about it. On ethnic line and religious line. The worst is 2023 general election. You can see that people did won generally in the north, southeast. I think we won in the northwest. Hey, that's the problem. Until we begin to tell ourselves that we are first Nigerians, interests of Nigeria should come first. When the interest of Nigeria begin to come first, then you begin to see changes. Otherwise, it's very, very difficult. It's very, very difficult for us to have this say, oh, come and participate. It's not easy because if you want to participate, there are people that are there already. There are people that the politicians will do that they are queuing up, to go and queue up. That is not your turn yet. So that's the problem. Why people cannot participate. Maybe I will just end with this suggestion. What mentioned Germany. I know what is up. When the Berlin Wall was broken down, immediately the Berlin Wall was broken down, this and when Germany joined together, you know what they did? They abolished everything about citizenship. If you are from Germany now, let me say if you are from Heidelberg and your father is from Berlin and you are born in Frankfurt, you are from Frankfurt. You are not from Berlin, you are not from Heidelberg. That is what they did. They gave everybody sense of Berlin. Nobody talks about ethnicity anymore. The same thing they did in Rwanda. Immediately after the Hutu problem in 1994, they removed everything about Hutu. Their constitution, their birth, they don't have anything. What they now have is Rwanda. Campaign. So
you're talking about going beyond ethnic lines,
tribal sensitivity, and looking at that is why we are not participating. We are not participating. I will tell you, this is our turn. Yoruba, this is our turn. Igbo, this is our turn. That's the problem. That's the problem.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Put a round of applause for them. Beyond tribal sentiments and the word Nigeria being central to one participation. Let me come to distinguished Honorable Justice Adolfo Sinigili here. I'm just listening and taking my cue from the last speakers. And he talked about participation beyond tribe. I would ask you this question following from also what our Lord also talked about earlier when it comes to about citizens often criticizing political leaders. Now, what civic responsibilities have Nigerians neglected that continue to weaken democracy? Because again, when they keep speaking about leadership, doesn't it start from the citizens first before effective accountability can take place? Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon, I've just been waiting or waiting drafted into this seat as a panelist. He later told me that I will speak on the topic, the citizen as a custodian of democracy, rights, responsibilities, and participation. As a guest speaker, that's what I'm called here to do. Well, I will align myself and deliver the lecture and also speak to the order of.
Thank you very much.
That place.
Okay, please. Round of applause.
My colleagues are here. We're all guest speakers. You just within a split second, I was drafted in here. So, reality will not have time. I will time myself, but there's a way I will go. The substance and meaning of that topic will be lost to brevity. I was asked to speak. First of all, it is a great privilege. What I did, I saw the permission of Sir Victor Benedict to do what I'm doing now. I thank you for this great honor to have come here. The theme of this symposium is faith, citizenship, and the future of Nigeria, a call to electoral responsibility and good governance. I've been asked to talk on the subtopic, the citizen, as considered of democracy, rights, responsibilities, and participation. Upon a reflection of this theme, it appears wide and amorphous, but seemingly predictive of the shape of it become in 2027 elections in Nigeria, a year of democratic transition. The keynote speaker is Lordship Bishop Matthew Buchanan. He's a well-known Nigerian spiritual guy, peacemaker, a lone star, a Catholic priest of a master class, whose depth and breadth of knowledge in the academia, ecclesia, and national discourse never fails to astonish Nigerians and international community. He has done so. Here to complement his lecture. Having listened to him, he did an oracular presentation. And in Greek classical mythology, when an oracle has already spoken, what do you expect a mortal man to do? Just to listen in silence, in reverence and total submission. Well, listen to him. And whatever must have been my qualification for this lecture, I see the theme as epitomizing the ideas, the ideology and philosophy of our dear nation, Nigeria. It is my standpoint that these ideas, this ideology, this philosophy are firmly rooted in the one united and indivisible dynamic sovereign nation called Nigeria, which draws its essence from the principle of democracy and social justice as enshrined in the Constitution of Federal Republic of Nigeria, Section 14, Section 1 and 2. What I'm going to do is not a deep dive, because we don't have time on my hands. I have a 31-page lecture as directed by you. I have 50 copies here for distribution. I've already sent the one copy to the chairman, available. It's in his platform now. It's there. And I also have the flash drive to give to you. So, from a synthesis of the subject of my discourse, I will examine them through the following: the origin and concept of democracy, the citizen as constituted of democracy, the rights, responsibilities, and participation, and lastly, conclusion. Who knows the origin of democracy? It emanated from Athens in the 5th century state of Greece at that particular time. It's a Greek word, demos, the Kratos, power to rule. And there are 3 factors. The Bishop had mentioned one of them. Indirectly, the Magna Carta. At that time, in Great Britain, it is the divine right of kings. Your life and property is in his hands. It had the Bill of Rights, the American Revolution of 1776, the French Revolution, and so on and so forth. These are the origins of democracy. At page 7 of my lecture, I tried to bring out the definitions of democracy. About 8 quotations are here. Please hand over to the chairman. Some say democracy is the government of the people by the people for the people, by Graham Lincoln. I have 8 other quotations about democracy. When you get the paper, you can read it. You don't have time. Then, the Federal Republic of Nigeria shall be a state we have certain provisions that enshrines the citizen as the custodian of democracy. Their rights, their responsibilities, and participation. Section 14(2) of the Constitution says sovereignty belongs to the people. Section 2(14), the participation of the people in their government shall be in accordance with the Constitution, and so on and so forth. So, active participation of the citizens is there. Active participation is not only when you go and vote at the election. It continues before, during, and after the election. You have the right to participate in political activities of the nation, even after that. The Electoral Act presents one of the most overhauls for the country's electoral rule since the return to the political rule. You have the right to vote and be voted for, the right to attend rallies, and the logical goal, and you have the right to register, the opportunity to vote, to register, to conduct yourself in a manner that is what they do in the elections. So, participation of citizens is necessary because this democracy is not a spectator sport. Everybody must have to participate in it. And that is the concept of civil participation, so that you choose the leaders that you want. This is not prevalent in other areas of the country. The concept of citizenship is inclusive. It includes everybody, all of us here. The bishop, the clergy, the religious, the lay, everybody, whether you are in low position or not in low position. So that is it. And for the citizen's right and the people's right, and for there to be electoral responsibility, there must be a free and fair election. The Constitution and the INEC, the Independent Electoral Act, created the INEC, and the chairman has an apparent duty to ensure credible, violence-free election in Nigeria. That is the responsibility not only of INEC, but the political class, faith-based organizations, the press, the government, non-governmental and civil liberty organizations, the working class, and so on and so forth. Political parties must act in a manner that admits of constitutional justifications. Right now, we see political dynamics and power calculus are already playing out as voting prelude to 2027 election. Another factor that we should consider is the influence of technology on electoral participation. We have introduced under the Act a smart card reader, the bimodal voter accreditation system, and electronic transmission through Section 60(3) of the Act that provides for electronic transformation, transmission of results, as well as manual. It is a hybrid situation. The quarrel or downside of this is that he said the Electoral Act, the provision that provides for transparency, can be weaponized for manipulation purposes to deny the people of their rights to the outcome. The intellectual and moral level of the average citizen is a measure of the state's progress and status. This is important. And when we talk about INEC counting votes, in my view, it is not only the votes that count, but those who count the votes also count. Are they impartial? Then there will be a existence of multi-party, not one-party system, so that the electorate can choose candidates from among all the political parties. Because in a real democracy, democracy rests on two legs: government in power and the opposition. We see that in other countries, the opposition were able to democratic transition to rest power in 2024 ago. In Mauritius, in Mexico, in Ghana, in Botswana, and Senegal, the opposition were able to raise power from the government power through a democratically elected government. But in Nigeria, what you see here, the political parties you see, a platform are not credible enough. You see the opposition, they are based on friends of the feather, of the same ideology, not a strong united opposition. And what do you see? The same ideology will come up, and all the qualifications they make will become mere academic. There should also be the rule of law. And when we mean widespread belief or perception by Nigeria that is only when the government is powerless or when the opposition wins, then the election is available. On this note, politicians and participants should know that no electoral victory or loss is what the peace and security of our nation. There is another form of crisis or insecurity. Political rivalry by the political parties, they are not checked. It can cause crisis in our nation. I remember the immigrant wife of Jonathan in 2015 when he said, I quote, "My political ambition is not worth the blood of any Nigerian." This quote has become a historical and global reference point for democratic transition, peace advocacy, and non-violent elections in Nigeria. And so that is it. You will also see with me that the Nigerian courts, the press, because sometimes the constitution, the mass media are the custodian of these rights, and they make government accountable to the people under section 22 of the constitution. The courts of our land are also custodian of democracy. In a recent case, decided by the Court of Appeal in the case of Owerri and Gboko, they emphasize the duties of democracy that every citizen, the participant, electoral officers, all faith of organizations, that we are all concerned for electoral in any diversity. I have the quotation here. When you read it, you will see to it. And so, it's not total. In a summary, we are talking of citizenship, future of Nigeria, a call to electoral responsibility. Just as my Lord Justice Okunwa said, what we are concerned, let there be electoral integrity come to 2027 general election. This electoral integrity, integral to this electoral integrity is one, the existence of active participation for all citizens. Two, you must allow multi-party system. You must allow the rule of law. The INEC, the electoral body of the state to be impartial, will conduct in all inclusive, balanced, credible elections. You must allow the press to function. That is it. For there to be a credible election. And on the side of faith, the ancient and normalized, you are the repository of faith. And we want you to employ your faith in this aspect. It is not only the ordinary citizens. Bishop has already said about that. The night you have to contribute to civil education of faith. I see that your motto is for the faith and the service of humanity, which you have espoused. Your emblem is a mountain's cross, which you bear as a soldier of Christ. As modernized by your motto and emblem, you are also to speak pilgrims of faith and service to humanity. That faith, the way Bishop said, is embedded in hidden issues of godliness. Faith that is tenacious, patient, but authentic, that catalyzes other noble achievements. You are a man of honor or a lady of honor. According to Shakespeare, one of the characters, my honor and my life are all in one. Take away my honor, my life is gone. So shall it be with you. And let me digress to make a word as a Catholic, what we observe in some of the nights. A Catholic knight is first and foremost a defender of the Catholic faith and a guardian of ecclesial unity, not an enforcer of personal sentiments. It is not a social club, not a commercial enterprise, or a political association are not co-equal or a rival to a parish priest, who is the spiritual guide and a confessor. A priest also, on the other hand, should not undermine the knighthood and should know the boundary of authority of spiritual and temporal power. It's not only the lay knights, they are the ladies auxiliaries. In some parishes I see how they want to lord it over the CWOs. You have to allow them, we are part of them, they don't lord it over them and cause crisis in some parishes. It does happen. Now, this is my final thought. I come to a conclusion. Transformational leadership provides advocacy for the citizens' exercise of their rights, responsibility, and active participation and considerance of democracy. Despite the current challenges presently experienced in Nigeria, I am persuaded that His Excellency, the President of Nigeria, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, more than any successive civilian president before him, will long be remembered and credited with bold and courageous reforms, especially the Electoral Act 2026, which expanded the democratic space for the exercise of citizen rights. That is not to say that the Act is entirely wholesome or without any failure on that side. The timeliness and expedition of the resolution of political matters by the courts, despite this discretion and some conflicting decisions and prompt responsiveness of the electoral body, are commendable. Nigeria is a nation of about 250 tribes with a population of over 200 million, ranked as the most. We planned our democracy along that of the United States of America's model, but we are far from the example in some respects. Nigerian democracy can flourish better when the democratic space is conducive to the essence of citizen rights, when the citizens are well informed, responsible, and actively participate in the future of our nation. The road ahead is not easy for any government, but it is ours to build. Our nation and this is watching us to demonstrate our motto of unity, faith, peace, and progress. Broadly speaking, the committed civil participation in the democracy by all citizens is patriotism. On the other hand, the preservation and protection of traditional rights of every citizen by the state is a valuable mark of good governance or accountable governance. When I reflect on the theme of this symposium, remarkably, the future of Nigeria, some statements or some statements came to my mind. Quote, the best way to predict the future is to create it, according to Abraham Lincoln. The future is not something we enter. The future is something we create. Lord Stewart, it is what you do in the present that will redeem the past and thereby change the future. Follow. You must be the change you wish to see in this world. God is in control of the affairs of Nigeria, the giant of Africa, and the future economic power. May the sun continue to shine on Nigeria now and beyond 2027 and clear the cloud hovering over the sky. I end this lecture with patriotism, energizing concern and conscience, renewed hope and prayers for the electoral success in Nigeria come 2027. Nigeria must survive. Thank you very much. Sorry for the
Thank you for hearing me out, and I'm sure that speech presented now gives a better perspective to my panelists as well, because he said something that I took away. We often hear that the Nigerian practices the democracy shaped and exemplified by other leading democracies such as America and the UK. Yet there are some places that we are far left behind that must come up. So now that I just see the President here in the hall, I would like to call him up on stage because he was also mentioned to be part of this panel. Please don't look surprised. A round of applause for him. Thank you very much. So we're going to do a quick wrap up of this because we do still have a lot of conversations coming forward from some goodwill messages and some messages, of course, that we mentioned here. And just so that we can just quickly wrap up and come to a summary of the thing, because I believe that the speech that just was presented gives a clearer picture, a perspective to some of the things you have said earlier and yourself, Esquire. So I will just quickly come to Sapiens and I'll thank you for being able to make it. We're waiting for your privileged presence earlier. Now, and I'm sure you've heard this question a lot of times, in your conversation. I would leverage you from what he has talked about, the electoral propriety, citizenship, participation. He talked about 2027 election. They spoke about, making Nigerian politics detribalized earlier. She spoke about transparency of citizens' participation and intentionality. I would ask you about, Nigeria's democratic challenge in essence. And, when we speak about citizens are governed by institutions. And those institutions become systems, of example. Would you say that Nigeria's democratic challenge primarily is a failure of those institutions, or a failure of the leadership within those institutions?
Our moderator, ladies and gentlemen, this is, for my own understanding of the two systems the moderator have put out. One is the family, the other one is leadership. I would want to exonerate the family because if you look at, we have more numbers of families than those in leadership for our democratic process. And Nigeria has not been able to provide or produce leadership at the family level where it is bad. The family culture for an average Nigerian man or an African man is still very intact. No matter the entrance of westernization, urbanization, or AI, the textures of our families is still rooted very strongly on a larger scale. We won't blame this on leadership. Leadership failures, yes, because you have to also blame some of the families that produce some of our leaders, including myself. So a leader who would not want to take a bold democratic step has created and generated a lot of failures for our country. So if you take it beyond, you see most of our leaders in the country, in Nigeria today, you see them traveling overseas. And if you go outside the country, you meet them in the public places, they are orderly. They are orderly. They respect the law. They honor the people. Take them to the United States or United Kingdom with their wives, they will respect the woman there. But as soon as their leg touches International Airport, some of them will start bullying the women. So you see that we are not intentional. We are not intentional in leadership calculation. So for the leadership of a country, it's not only those in government. You also look at other institutions that support the citizenship participation in the electoral processes and holding them accountable. So for every one of us who find ourselves in leadership position, we have to be intentional in what we want to achieve. I do not want to be a senator or a governor just to answer the name. I do not want to be a knight because I want to be a son and lady. I want to be a knight or a citizen that will hold myself accountable for being intentional at the progression stage of my life, so that by the time you get to the top, you would have been made a good leader that you can sustain it. So our democratic system to survive in Nigeria, our leaders have to be intentional to themselves. They have to be accountable to themselves. If you look at what is happening, sometimes you ask yourself what is going on. But for us in the order, and also as Catholics, because we are part of the system, if you allow the wrong people take the wrong decision, it is us that will be hit. His Lordship told us that you don't want to join them because politics is dirty, but you are downstairs waiting for the crumbs that come from the same political class to touch your palms. So we have to be involved, and that is why in the knighthood or in the Catholic Church, we run. You said the Catholic Church is not democratic, yes, but internally, we are democratic because institutions in the parish level to the national and national level are allowed to operate freely. Our Grand Spiritual Director is here, and you would see the interference between him and the knights is to guide us spiritually and also allow the knights to run themselves independently as an organization under the church. So our leaders in the country must put a step forward that shows transparency, honesty, loyalty, and dedication. It is only when you do that that the citizens will follow. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was intentionally speaking that leadership must be deliberate and put the person forward for citizens to take examples from. And even though when we say politics is there, somebody will probably get involved to be able to clean from the inside. I do hear you now. This is to summarize, and I'll come back to the last speaker, Honorable Justice, and just your final approach. As respected custodians of justice and perhaps constitutional values, what concerns you most about Section 9 resolution? And what is the hope that you are actually leveraging? I mean, there is a concern, but is there also hope that we can get it right? You talked about 2027, so I want you to say that. Thank
you. If I had time to read the paper, the question has been answered here. Everything depends on, I termed it, mass voter participation. That's what I'm doing. Mass voter participation. Let me say, it is the citizens that determine the outcome of the election, where the other institutional framework are there. And that is quarrel about Section 60, Section 3 of the Constitution, of the Electoral Act, that makes it a hybrid situation. In one breath, there is transmission. In another, where there is a glitch or whatever, a use for people are saying the same act that promotes transparency can be weaponized to deny the people accuracy in their expectation, because they determine who comes into power. The citizen is the most powerful in a nation, in a democracy. The citizens are the voice of democracy. The citizens is what makes a democracy a democracy. Let me put it that way. The citizens that are voted, they are the voice of democracy. They are what makes democracy a democracy in any nation. Where, as respect, electoral integrity, I said, must have its component: mass voter participation, free and fair election to the court, free and independent judiciary. Now, when it comes to the courts, you see an admixture of politics, law, and sentiment. The pressure goes to the court. A timorous judge will not be able to withstand the pressure, but will have political elements. So that is it. The future of Nigeria is in our hands. You look at yesterday with gratitude to God that we are surviving today. And I agree with you. Today we have to be intentional. Today we have to be intentional, because we look at tomorrow with hope. And there is, I guess, a good hope in the present government. Thank you.
Okay. Intentionality with renewed hope. That's a fact. We'll look forward to that. Okay, just before I go to Aspire, you spoke about citizenship and intentionality. And you also speak about, gatekeeping of the electoral processes. And one word that I also always remember when people talk about free and fair election is the adventure of reading. So when you're looking at that perspective, who reads that election and who allows the reading to happen? Because people say it's not just about casting the vote, are protecting the vote and is in the county. So where does the citizen have any way in all of this process?
Dr. Dora, you mentioned rigging. How does citizens protect or gatekeep it, and where does rigging start? I think rigging starts from you and I. Everyone who failed to do what they're supposed to do, who chose to look the other way. I was part of the representatives of one of the political parties in 1993 election. And I carried the placard of one of the candidates. I saw election was counted, was written, was delivered from one point to the other, and at the state level, what we counted, and my polling booths in Imo State, Ishiweke, was what was announced in Owerri. 2003, that was when I saw what rigging was. In my polling booth, a popular candidate that was massively voted by electorates within the Southeast. We had the election, and one of my big uncles called us and said, "Uncle, find me a job. Uncle, find me money. Uncle, I have not eaten in this ballot box." I said, "How do you mean?" He said, "We have to change everything that is there." So, wow. How do you do that? He lectured everyone on how to change the content in the ballot box. And at the end, because he has blackmailed us that I need food, I have not paid house rent, my children are still in school, we have school fees issues, we have this and that, he has blackmailed us, isn't it? So everyone yielded and chose to close their eyes and shut their mouth. And this is how elections are rigged. You will be blackmailed. And when you accept the blackmailing of jumping figures or writing something different, then you know that you have contributed in the rigging. The rigging is not in the electoral umpires. It starts and ends with every one of us, including our lordships that would help us to protect. When they come to the law court, I ask our very good, revered Justice Agumadu, is our godfather, is our leader. And I asked him something. I said, "My Lord, if you are in your building and you look outside the window and you see someone using his car to hit somebody and run away, the person appears in your law court, or they arrange the person in the law court where you were a witness, would you convict the person, or you will yield to the lawyer who is telling you to free him where you're a witness?" He looked at me. I was still very young, hot-headed boy. He said, "PMC Okeke, I will only rule based on the evidence the lawyer presents." So, as citizens, you see that you don't blame the justices of our courts. And for us, as Catholics, we will not be deterred from protecting our votes. We will also, the Catholic Bishop Conference of Nigeria has asked us to get involved in governance. Seek election. Don't be afraid of rigging, and don't make yourself an instrument at which you will see what is wrong and you will not say it. In the United Kingdom, before I drop the phone, if you board their bus or their train, there's something they will tell you, you will hear. If you see something that is wrong, that does not seem right, You see it, you say it, and it is sorted. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I'm really, really thrilled that this is happening in the faith-based, community, because everybody here, apparently, by the sheer member that joined Nigeria, has a voter's card and also has a responsibility. And talking about the law, when you were talking, I could hear lawyers murmuring in the background to say the Lady Justice, symbolizes impartiality and fairness and is blind to anything but evidence, and represents that. And she was smiling because I know that a lot of people have asked this question, and so a lawyer will tell them it is neutrality until evidence is provided. So I'm sure that it's another round of applause for him. Thank you so much for bringing that. And just before we leave, I'll just pass the remaining 2 questions to my Esquire. Now, with Nigerians listening to you online, live TV, many people will be thinking that they would want to pass from this conversation. If every Nigerian listening today could leave with one guiding principle of citizenship and nation building, what would you want that principle to be for them? What do you want them to remember as the
very thing I will commend to everybody here and people listening live is that remember that Nigeria belongs to you as well. So that when they come to ask you, like the Brigadier General just said, they ask you to change the result, you should know that it's about your future. If Nigeria gets good tomorrow, you will be happy. If it doesn't get good tomorrow, you will be unhappy. No matter what they are going to give to you, we need to fix this country. I'll give you this, it's a fairy tale. Somebody said that Nigeria is a zoo. But I said it's not even a zoo, it's a jungle. And I will explain, in the jungle, in the zoo, there are rules and regulations. But in the jungle, there are no rules and regulations. Now, a lion comes out one morning and sees antelope. Antelope, how are you? Good morning, good afternoon, how are the children? Fine. After exchanging pleasantries, beautiful pleasantries, the antelope turns away to go. He said, come, where are you going now? He said, I'm going to look for food. He said, I have just found food and you want to go? He said, fair. Judgment started. The lion said, no, you can't go. You have food, and I'm going to look for food. And you are going to look for food. Now I have seen my own food. You want to go? Giraffe was there. Giraffe looked, went his way. Monkey looked, went there. All the other animals, they refused to come and interfere. They refused to say anything. All of them walked away. He ate antelope. The next day, it was monkey's turn. Monkey, where are you going? Fine. After pleasantries, they are living in the jungle, so everybody is free to move into it. I will continue in the forest anymore. I will live with you what will happen to the lion after many times or many days of hunger. Thank you very much.
fantastic storytelling? Fantastic. I would say maybe the lion will become vegetarian, perhaps. But thank you so much for that insight. And I want to come to the winter. Just a few parts ways, from this particular conversation. And he's spoken about citizenship, he's spoken about accountability, he's spoken about intentionality, and I'll speak to you just on trust. Citizens' trust for leadership. What would be that advice to leadership to regain the trust of the masses? One,
you have to believe that the system is not believing no matter what you continue change. It's a failure. But when you believe that it can be changed and you do your own part, then certainly, and you trust that what you're doing will work, certainly it will work. Just change your situation. To change the situation, you have to change your position. And of course, you change your mindset. That's what I have to say. Thank you.
I have been a special request for feedback from because one of the best learning platforms like this, and when they hear people from institutions who are leaders, who are icons, who are role models, you're not just speaking to them in this room, you're also speaking for the very words and what you think citizens going forward and electoral reforms. Thank you. Thank you so much. A round of applause for them. So, thank you to my panel for the photograph session. And I think in concluding this panel, I want to say 4 things to that: accountability, intentionality, trust, and leadership by example. And I think that speaks to the citizenship and the future of Nigeria. Beyond elections, we still want to see Nigeria that works. So we must just speak into it. I see hands up in the air. Do we have moments to take any question? Okay, they said the eyes have it on this side of the wall, so I will just respect that level behind you. So please, a round of applause for those hands raised. I'm sure the question will be taken in one time of people. Photographers, please.
It snap.
Thank you so much, Dr. Thank you. Appreciate your time here. While the session was on, the Chartered Grand President of PortHarcourt Grand Commandery walked in. Brigadier General John Ladies and gentlemen, let's put our hands together for him.
Please, we also bring the audience to still spend time with us. It's quite unfortunate that some persons have started feeling weak. But you will agree with me that the benefit of this gathering today cannot be overemphasized. So without taking much of our time, please, permit me to invite to the podium to speak to us for just 15 minutes. Honorable Justice DGQ. Please, another applause from you. Honorable Justice DGQ. He has to talk to us for 15 minutes.
Thank you so very much. Allow me to be on your established protocols. I'm making some confessions. I am not a Catholic. I am one of the Knights of St. John International. I am not a Knight at all. So how do I find myself here? The invitation letter extended to me, duly signed by your Grand President, Brigadier General PMC Okeke, and your noble brother, Victor Benibo, and the Planning Committee Secretary, Colonel Casper Ogubo, did not take what qualified me to speak in this symposium after my Lord Bishop Hazard Kuka had spoken. Bishop Matthew Hazard Kuka CON is not just a Catholic bishop, but one of Africa's most outstanding scholars and one of Nigeria's most respected intellectuals and national voices. And Lord Bishop Kuka is not just a priest, but equally an author. I had the privilege of reading 2 of his books, which have been mentioned here. When my Lord Bishop was ordained as a priest in December 1976, I was a toddler, perhaps an infant. So inviting me to speak when my Lord Bishop had spoken, delivered the keynote address, you can imagine the weight of responsibilities on my shoulders and the risk I took in coming here. Now, from the groundbreaking foundation that his lordship had just laid in his keynote address, permit me to briefly address this symposium on the subject, the rule of law as a foundation of democratic governance in Nigeria. The rule of law is not an abstract idea. The rule of law is what we see in court as a judge. The rule of law is an inseparable aspect of democratic governance. It is a concept that makes modern societies to function effectively. Democracy provides a conducive and stimulating environment for the rule of law to thrive. It is the rule of law as against the rule of man that sustains democracy. The term rule of law is a concept that we are familiar with, and it is a French phrase from the word la principle de legality. That is the principle of legality, which refers to a government based on principles of law and not of man. In a broader sense, the rule of law means that the law is supreme and is above every individual. No individual, whether is above the law. In a narrower sense, the rule of law implies that governmental authorities may only be exercised in accordance with the written laws and established procedure. It is what constrains individual and institutional behavior, safeguarding against arbitrariness. I don't want to bother you with what A.B. Dicey has said in his work, Introduction to the Law of the Constitution. As judges, we do not aspire to rule. We do not aspire for power. We know the chains that bind us. It is the chain of the rule of law and not the rule of the judge. As co-laborers in the vineyard of justice, we will work tirelessly to disable injustice in our courts and in our nation, Nigeria. It was Rainbow Neighbor who once said, and I'm quoting Kuka in his book Witness to Justice, that man's capacity for justice makes democracy possible, but man's inclination to injustice makes democracy necessary. Let me end here by quoting what Aaron Barra said in his book, The Judge in the Democracy. This is what he said on page 76. Judicial independence is a central component of any democracy, and it is crucial to the rule of law and human rights or minority rights. It is also the lifeblood of constitutionalism in democratic societies. Without judicial independence, there is no preservation of democracy and its values. Independence here can mean personal independence of the judge or institutional independence of the judiciary. As judges, we do not have any other master apart from the law, the Constitution, and our conscience. As judges, we are not subject to any other authority other than the law and the shades of binding judicial precedents, which we call stare decisis. My Lord, the Chief Justice of Nigeria, Honorable Justice Mudirat, MOKK, GCON, is determined in building a judiciary that is not only fit for the future, but worthy of the trust and aspirations of every Nigerian. Beyond ensuring that the courts in Nigeria are not left out in the digital revolution, my Lord, the CJN has given priority to ethical conduct of judicial officers of the superior courts of record and the need for optimal performance of our nation's judiciary. As judges, we do not merely decide cases. We speak for the Constitution. We interpret the law. We restore dignity where conflict has injured it and ultimately stabilizes society. We write judgments. And the judgment of any court should seek to do these three things simultaneously. It should be able to resolve disputes. It should also be able to explain the law and build public confidence in the administration of justice. In a keynote address delivered on the 13th of April 2026 at the National Judicial Institute, Abuja, at the opening ceremony of the National Workshop on Judicial Ethics, my Lord, the CJN had this to say, and I'm closing. This workshop is convened at a time when the role of the judiciary continues to attract considerable public attention. The legitimacy of judicial authority depends not only on the correctness of decisions, but also on the confidence reposed in the courts by the public. That confidence is sustained in large measure by the ethical conduct of judicial officers. Judicial ethics, therefore, remains central to the administration of justice and to the preservation of the rule of law. End of quote. Let me conclude. For those of us who administer justice, we will continue to do justly and to see that justice is served. As my Lord Kayode would say, without justice, the law labors in vain. The rule of law as a foundation of democratic governance in Nigeria will not be in vain under the judiciary where we serve as judges. We will not allow the executives nor the legislatures to be the interpreters of the powers allotted to them under the Constitution. I'd like to thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Honorable Justice D.G. Bello, for that wonderful speech. And we are certain that this speech, which I believe is quite miraculous, in the sense that he has written it based on the prevailing circumstances of this country, politically, a copy will be made available to us, so that from quiet time, we
will peruse and continue to live out what the content is all about. Thank you so much. So as we progress, please let's make welcome, and we of course know that it's our own Reverend Father Polycarp to please speak to us. Thank you, please. Let's give a round of applause.
I may not be the script to speak about Nigerian politics. We've been a part of it and we've seen it all. That's actually to speak on the faith-based organizations in shaping governance in Nigeria. I'd like to thank the likes of PortHarcourt commentary because they are already beginning to play a role even before it is defined. When we talk about faith-based organizations, we're talking about the churches, the mosques, we're talking about other organizations springing from them, like the Knights of St. John. We're talking about schools founded by those faith organizations. We're also talking about charity bodies founded by those faith organizations. They are all faith-based groups, and we're talking about how do these people rub off? What is their role? One important thing is that every faith-based organization seems to have won the public trust because of where they are coming from, the religion, they are, what makes them who they are. They are like trusted, ready. Like if you find a person who is very committed and is a Christian, become a governor, the first thing you tell yourself, wow, I'm going to try it here, until he begins to lose the grip by making wrong decisions. If you also find a very good person in business who becomes a ruler, as soon as he comes in, people give the sign of belief and watch him closely. When he makes first mistake, second one, third one, that's his character. We let him be, and that's it. But then if you ask me what will be the role of the faith-based organizations, I will tell you their first role is that of moral formation. Moral formation. And since the faith-based organizations work with the Bible, the Quran, and their own doctrines that seem to also work in line with the reality and God's own natural laws, it is easier for them to tell their people what to do and they begin to do them. So first, my first reaction to that is that churches should do well to go back to catechesis, especially the Catholic Church. Let us no longer be hiring anybody we want, anybody who is ready to go and teach catechism. Let us train catechists. Let us use Siwa to raise people who can teach the proper catechesis so that our children are taught in the greatest way to know the right thing and follow the right thing from the beginning. And of course, if you form them very well at that tender age, wow, you have not much to regret when they grow to become leaders from their classrooms to students' union level to the political level. So when we fail to form them at that level, we fail to take responsibility for the governance that will beseech us in the future. This is also important for the young people, the youth. Let's speak about youth. We have spoken since morning, and I don't remember anybody mentioning the necessity of holding our youths, making them responsible so that we can hold them responsible. It is holidays. How many programs are the nights ready to organize for the young people running around us? How many students
Because if you leave them for these 2 months of holidays to run around, they decide what they want to do and how they want to do it, and what comes out of it will rob us in the future. And when I talk about youth always, where I'm interested in the development of the young people, is that you don't know their next victim when they go wrong. You that is overlooking the things right now, you don't know who will be the next victim of this people we are overlooking right now. My people used to say, when you see the fowl, use his leg to scatter feces, pursue it, because you don't know whether when they kill the fowl, the willy will be sharp. You go chop the leg, if they give you the leg, that is the same leg you used to scatter feces sometimes. So when you do, you are saving the future. So Knights of St. John, this assembly is important, and what I'm bringing to this assembly is what can this faith-based organization do for the young people? What is our parishes doing for the young people? It's a holiday. Probably I want to close with one very important information. That since last year we are doing what they call Ignite Your Future. We're gathering young people for holiday camp. And it's not just teaching them academic work. We're also forming their minds to be busy, because they say an idle mind is a devil's workshop. We're keeping their minds busy, introducing them to so many things they can be doing for themselves. It is when they don't have anything to do that they begin to do what they have. By that way, I would say tonight, join us and work with the young people. We'll be doing a great deal to the Nigerian populace and to the governors in this great nation. You can send us your child. Actually, this particular program is designed for those who have just finished writing YEC, so that we'll be able to tell them the difference between secondary school and the world after secondary school. So much is being done. And you know what? I gathered young graduates. They're the ones planning. The business is to sit on the background and say, do it this way, or let us correct this one. And the enthusiasm I see in them is the development of Nigeria and great minds for tomorrow. God bless you all.
Thank you so much, Father. This is a voice that we can't get tired listening to. Each time you listen to Father Polycarp, definitely you will be rejuvenated, and the word that comes through him is always enriching. Father, thank you so much for this wonderful speech. Without taking much of our time once again, permit me to invite the leadership himself, KSJI Bello, SAS. Please round of applause.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Monsignore, my dear brothers and sisters. My local lords, Justice Elebedi and Justice Q, said they had Gboko after Bishop Hassan Kuka has spoken, they are called upon to speak. They were wondering how they will go. My own difficulty is even more because Bishop Kuka has spoken. My noble Lord Elebedi, who was retired before his time, he retired at 65. Just a month after, retirement age was increased to 70. And at 68, my noble Lord is looking like in his 50s, bereft of degree here. And we pray that the Lord continue to bless my Lord with more strength. I understand I'm giving 15 minutes. Please, I don't think I'm doing. Let me just start the Q2, who was called Justice Bello, and I whisper to him that the MC is liable for content. Content, this one is impeachable, because where you find the judge is where you find the court. And so I thank them for throwing light on a lot of things we have to say. I am immensely grateful to KSJI for this invitation to have privilege of speaking at this gathering of people in the library of the church. Not being one of you, but indeed I'm one of you. And I want to thank in particular my brother with whom we work together in Parish Council, together General KK. I'm sure, in fact, suspecting that together with my chairman, First Energy Church for MB PortHarcourt, Victor Benedict, we conspired together to drag me here today. I am grateful for this, their conspiracy. My topic is electoral integrity, the role of the judiciary in strengthening democracy in Nigeria. I have sent electronic copies to General KK, to Noble Brother, I hope I'm correct with the names. I told them, Noble Brother Victor, and I also made some copies available, hard copies. So I'll be speaking to the paper at the same time. It's only 13 pages that I don't like to bore you with my, who speaks outside here? Local Turechi, that's long grammar. I began by saying that I said that this thing could not be more timely at the period when we are contemplating another general election in 2027. I'm almost through with my big one. But let me say that the judiciary will not be held liable for whatever decision is given. Because pursuant to the victim of unknown justice of Supreme Court in ruling against NEPA, citation is given, it has been held that sentiment has no place in judicial deliberations. Cases must be decided on law and facts and not on sentiments. And so what the judiciary does is based on what you tell them. With this, I agree with Brigadier General KK, when he was talking about an encounter he had with Joseph Kabuma, that you decide based on the fact for him. That's what the judiciary does. And so it is the litigants that determine the judgment of the court. Hello? Yes. It is the facts you place before the court that determines the judgment of the court. The judge will only look at the applicable law to the facts before the court. Let me recognize the presence, permit me to recognize the presence of Sir Dr. JohnInternational, KSM. He is immediate past GK, immediate past Republican Chancellor of Calabar Military Council of Knights of Sebolumba. You can see that we look alike. He came here on behalf of Knights of Sebolumba to witness what KSJI is doing with us. So that we also plan to intervene. Wait. He said something. Say it again. Permit me, I'm on page 2, to say the court operates on the gathering in our basis. Just similar to tell you that it is your facts that determine the judgment of the court. Now, page 2, what is electoral integrity? I've signed the electoral integrity as the extent to which an election is conducted freely, fairly, transparently, and in accordance with democratic principles and the law. It ensures that the election results accurately reflect the will of the people. There are some key elements of electoral integrity. They include 1, universal suffrage; 2, free and fair competition; 3, secret ballots; 4, accurate voter registration; 5, honest vote counting; and 6, fair dispute resolution. Now, stage of election in Nigeria, I'm on page 3 now. We have a pre-election stage. Pre-election was defined by the Supreme Court by Sanusi GSA. At my instance, the matter agreed by the grace of God from High Court to Supreme Court in APC against Umar. The report, the citation is given. That's the end of page 3. I'm not going to read it out to bore you with it. Then we have the voting stage. And the voting stage permits me to draw attention to the provisions of section 14, subsection 2A of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, amended, that says that sovereignty belongs to the people of Nigeria, from whom government through this Constitution derives all its powers and authority. Sovereignty belongs to you and I. It is our duty to determine who our leaders are. The next stage is post-voting stage, which is the stage of the judiciary. Later in this discourse, dwell extensively on word collation, which I consider rather nebulous and unnecessary in our polity. Now, the role of judiciary is very democracy in Nigeria, about page 5 now. Again, I refer to Umar APC. This time I refer to the victim of Olabode Kubaimo's JSC when he said in that case, the legislature is to make laws, while the judiciary is to apply the law and the process explain it. While it is the duty of the serving minds to study what the judiciary says. I have referred to this condition so that we appreciate the fact that the judiciary cannot go beyond their powers. You have to interpret the law as it is, not as it should be. I will explain in one of the cases I referred to here, that I declared also conducting up to the Supreme Court, about this electronic transmission and beavers. I'll come to that shortly. I'm proceeding now to page 6, where I've talked about the two ways to challenge an election. Now, this is an allusion to Section 138 of the Electoral Act 2026. Those two ways are A, election was invalid by reason of corrupt practices or non-compliance with the provisions of this Act, that is the Electoral Act. And 2, that the respondent was not only elected by majority of lawful votes cast at the election. Now, the challenge to have a non-compliance is that the law is that you have to put polling unit to polling unit. Where you have 3,000 polling units in a state, for instance, and you have 6 months to prove your case, and those of us who are adept in election litigations, that we dwell so much on election litigation, we will waste your 6 months for you with motions. Don't quote me outside there, but some unnecessary motions. By the time we do pre-hearing and without that hearing, you have just perhaps a month or 2, within which you are expected to bring 3,000 witnesses to give evidence. Those witnesses will be examined, they will be re-examined. Is it possible? I'll refer to a case shortly on that. Then let me refer us to judgment of the Court of Appeal in Juliet Nwangu against the Woodman to demonstrate that it is difficult to prove election to non-compliance. Because the law says that will be to show that there is substantial non-compliance. Substantial non-compliance. In that case, election was conducted on Saturday. It was a territorial election for Enugu West Federal District. It has 5 local communities and several wards. Election was conducted on Saturday, 23rd of February 2019. On Sunday, the following day, 24th, they have collected only 3 local communities out of 5. The return to women were elected. On Monday, 25th, when they announced the collation of the 2 wards, the result that was declared the previous day was the same result they declared today. Are you following me? They declared the results after the 3 local communities on Sunday. On Monday, they collected the remaining 2 and declared the same result they declared the previous day. What do you call that one? It's not Macadamia. Question to answer the question. Also, question to answer. Questions to answer. The apathy tells that our action really shows substantial non-compliance. Now, in the assembly against INEC, this is global original machine vendor. They did not open any machine. I was also in the case. They didn't open any of the machines to demonstrate the results. And what's now the legal happens? Transmission, electric transmission. But I wasn't able to do that shortly. Now, the bigger machine, what they brought was screenshot, and they now take that machine without opening them. Supreme Court said they cannot rely on screenshots of people's machine. And that was why let me read what the Supreme Court said on that. On the fifth and final issue of whether or not the applicant approved round 2 of the petition, that the second respondent had not won the election with the majority of the votes cast, the law is right that he who has sat the burden of pleadings and evidential proof that was upon the applicants to establish their ground 2 require them to 1. Plead and establish votes cast at the various polling units. 2. Plead and establish the unlawful votes which ought to have been deducted from the votes credited to the second and third respondents. 3. All evidence directly from the officers or other witnesses who were at the election ground where votes were cast, counted and collated, and tender in evidence all the forms used for the elections and call witness to testify to the misinterpretation of votes called by them as against the second and third respondents. Now, only 18 witnesses were called. Can 18 witnesses establish what happened in a state with over 3,000 polling units? And the papers machine is tendered was they didn't open it to demonstrate it. The papers machine is otherwise going to be modern voter accreditation system. Now, challenges facing the judiciary in playing a role to French democracy in Nigeria. One, we have allegation of corruption. Let me say that from my experience, corruption in judiciary, those that are corrupt are not up to 5% of the judges. And I said with all sense of responsibility. I'm a lawyer of 38 years standing. They are not up to 5%. You know that those 5% are so notorious that you now think that the judiciary is corrupt. It's like one bad apple spoiling the whole bunch. Majority of the judiciary are not corrupt. They are very hardworking. That is why when you see them work 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years, they have brilliant. Now we are putting that pressure. This is true. We have freedom where some people feel they should can influence and manipulate the judiciary. But let me tell you, most times they fail. We have conflicting judgments. Now, this one is a function of inadequacy of machinery and materials for work. Otherwise, when a judge delivers judgment, if the judgment is escalated electronically and other judges are aware of it, those other judges is not in their subsequent judgment deliver judgment that will not conflict with the one delivered by the judge. A judge of the High Court is bound by terms of all judges of High Court. If you look at section 271 of the Constitution, there is only one court in each state. We have judges for administrative convenience. So once one judge makes a pronouncement, it's the decision of that court, that is of the state. So every other judge must follow suit. We have the principle of judicial precedent. Also, one of my cases, Ibrahim and APC, participating to the judicial report. And so, what about the same thing? Supreme Court, the same thing. But because they don't escalate their judgments electronically immediately delivered, and we used to have law reports of River State, High Court, that was stopped some time ago. I hope judiciary will think about reactivating it. We have reports of Court of Appeal, we have a Supreme Court report. So Supreme Court report has stopped. It's only a general report and a federal report that we have. And we need to read. The lawyers have to draw attention of judges to some of these judgments as well, so that the judgment will not conflict. We have limited judicial resources. We have public distrust in judicial funds. The truth is that most people are not good losers. Once they lose a case, there's nothing they will not imagine. But if they sit down and tell themselves the truth, they know they lose when they deserve to lose. What that concerns all of us who are not necessarily judges is electoral apathy. The Brigadier General told us that we are the ones responsible for rigging. apathy of voters is the greatest cause of rigging. Now, in a unit, polling unit, let's assume you have 500 registered voters, and on the election day, only 100 go out to vote. What do you think will happen to the remaining 400? They will thumbprint for them. They will thumbprint for them. And that is the greatest way, highest way to rig election. Now, what are the things that cause voter apathy in Nigeria? We have lack of confidence in electoral processes, when you believe that no matter what you do, they will leave. Electoral violence and insecurity, this one is true. In one state, I hear when they were voting, helicopter just came, they fired some shots, everybody ran away and they packed the votes. Inconsistent decisions, we mentioned that before. Corruption and poor governance. Vote buying. This one is because many of us are petty. How can somebody give you 5,000 naira? That cannot even buy you a plate of food now, decent plate of food. Then you go and vote for him. He stays there for 4 years. You think you do anything in your people? He has settled you. Then we have youth disillusionment. My very good priest, as I spoke about the youth, but I'm aware of a youth aspect of St. John. You have, yes. In Mulumba, we have YSL, the youth of St. Mulumba, and we strive to train them in every way possible. In fact, they attend our meetings. They attend mass to our meetings, and they hold their meetings, they our meetings. I want to encourage all of us parents, let your children join the youth wing. That is the best way to nurture them. The Bible says, train your child the way he should go. When they grown up, you know the path and commit, and that is true. Now, how usually can reduce voter apathy? Delivering timely justice. Delivering timely justice. The Constitution in section 285 has reduced time limit for conduct of election petition. In fact, the first is 14 days to go institute action. Once there's an election, you must commence your action pre-election, you must commence your action within 14 days. The 14 days have been circumscribed. I hope I've not finished my 15 minutes. I think I've been only 5 minutes. The 14 days have been circumscribed to 13 days by bench of the judgment of the court in Okechukwu against INEC. Okechukwu against INEC, in fact, 1486, and then report. So the day of the occurrence of the event is counted as part of the 14 days. So you start counting that same day. And the judiciary is expected to deliver judgments within 180 days for that 6 months for tribunal, the High Court. The Court of Appeal has 2 months, 60 days. Supreme Court has 60 days too. Now, consistency judicial decisions are built on that. Strict enforcement of electoral laws. I will refer to one judgment that is controversial, but I will explain because I played a role in that decision. I was a consultant in that matter. I will explain it very soon. Judicial independence is very important. Protection of voters' rights. Then I went on faith, citizenship, and the future of Nigeria. That one, that's my page 10. I will only refer to a statement by Martin Luther King Jr., which is quite instructive on page 11. The act of the rural universe is done. The act, I have 21 minutes. The act of the rural universe is done, but it bends towards justice. I also want to draw attention to a similar statement by Nelson Mandela. A nation should not be judged by how it treats its highest citizens, but how it treats its lowest citizens. I have my recommendation here. In my recommendation, I said reduction of givers is commendable. And under my recommendation, I recommended most importantly that word collation is eradicated. It should be removed from our polity. It is my opinion, with all sense of responsibility, that it is at ward collation that the rigging magic is done. Ward collation. Why can't we have election from the unit? The result is transmitted once announced and everybody assigned, it is transmitted directly to the constituency. But when they go to ward collation, oh, they say, oh, they cancel one vote, they cancel another vote. Justice Ehime, also Ehime, DMT, now Justice Supreme Court. Let me read what happened about this. This, who's of the one against Ehime, reported in 2020, 5 Nigerian report, part 1718, page 529. Now, this was the decision of Tuesday, 14th of January 2020 of the Supreme Court. The appellant's case was that government election held in 27 local government areas of Imo State, 305 electoral wards, and 3,523 polling units. That INEC cancels the election in 252 polling units, collated results of 2,883 polling units, and excluded results from 388 polling units. That the appellant scored an overwhelming majority in the 388 polling units of 213,695, while the first respondent, that is the Adrian, scored 1,903 from the 388 polling units. Are you with me? Just opposed to 213,695 with 1,903. You can see the magic. Really collect it at one. Now, this I didn't write here, but let me mention because I was part of it. In the tribunal accepted the results from those 388 units. It was accepted by tribunal, but tribunal held that they had won the election. They are given INEC. Court of Appeal, only one of them out of 5 justices, only one said, oh, yes. Both of the man won, but that was minority. So the Court of Appeal justice suffered from tyranny of the majority. But Supreme Court unanimously held that those of the man won that election with a total of 310,153 votes, while Hero has scored the lesser 260,162 votes. My conclusion is there for all of us to see. It is for these reasons and the full reasons against in my paper that I humbly insist that it is necessary for us to do ward pollution. We should have transmission to the constituency real time as against in the Electoral Act, which many of our electricians are not courageous enough to insist on become the law. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, our dear LSC. That's an insightful a speech that did not lack clarity. To was quite exciting indeed, and I thank you for that wonderful word that you delivered this afternoon. Rest in Salukito. We have to take another speaker here, so please. By the time this speaker comes to us, considering the fact that we have spent quality time here today, we may not be able to take further speeches from other people, rather ignore the hierarchy to do the needful. Please, let's make welcome DC Hayakin. OC Hayakin. Thank you so much.
Please, can I be permitted graciously to stand on the existing protocol? Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I am asked to speak on the topic voting beyond ethnicity and religion, choosing competence, character, and capacity. Well, I don't know how that will be, but I will try my best. Well, to achieve this tall objective, I shall try to examine voting patterns of, I will just randomly take, I have a 24 pages presentation, but I'm not going, I will just go from the front and go to the back and give you my suggestions. To achieve this tall objective, I shall examine the patterns of Nigerians, particularly how Nigerians voted in the 2023 general election, which is still fresh in our memory. And I shall also look at other elections in Nigeria, but particularly I will dwell more on the 2023 election to determine whether Nigerians intentionally want to choose incompetence, bad people, bad character, and why would they want to do that? Or it is that Nigerians prefer good character, good character, good leaders, but that something or somebody is influencing their decisions against each time they want to vote. A lot has been said about the elections in Nigeria, including 2023, like I just mentioned. I shall try to examine whether ethnicity religion played a significant role in the year 2023. And to come to the conclusion, I will just quote one of the quotations I have here by the eminent human rights activist Matthew Hassan Kuka, Bishop Catholic, Roman Catholic Diocese of Sokoto, who I have the insights of sharing the stage today, although he has left. I can say that it's a very big honor to do that. A lot of people condemned that 2023 general election. Some leaders, both Atiku Abubakar, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, definitely will commend it. But before the election, there are comments that these people made, and I quote one of them. For instance, the PDP presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar made a statement when he stirred up controversy that Northerners should vote for him rather than a Yoruba or an Igbo man. Abubakar Atiku said that. Bola Ahmed Tinubu himself said, because another statement, he said, he asked Yorubas to vote, don't vote for Atiku and Peter, but rather they should vote for him as their kinsman. The same thing, Obi made the same statement. If you remember the video, the conversation between Obi and Bishop Oyedepo that got to the media. The same thing. What am I trying to say? I'm trying to say that everybody, every politician plays to the gallery. They play along their side. You remember, my paper is voting beyond ethnicity and religion. I want to see whether it is possible, whether to do that in Nigeria. And I want to say that the first election in Nigeria, I will not put that one with all that. That election was held on the 23rd of September 1923 by Lord Lugard. That election was Mark Massey held that election against the prominent person in Nigeria there, if you recall, Macaulay. Macaulay was a prominent person who has been agitating let's have the people in the parliament, let's have Africans representing us, white men cannot representing us. By June, he was taken a lot of. accused of eating, embezzling his client's money, and he was locked away. He didn't participate in that election, and his career was taken. That was why it was last year. Tinubu pardoned him. If you remember, it was last year Tinubu pardoned him. Close to 100 years. That was the time Tinubu, more than 100 years. Tinubu now pardoned him. Please, before I forget, let me say that I do not take this opportunity for granted. I am indebted to the executive of Night of PortHarcourt, Grand Commandary River State, every led by the Brigadier General. When I had the name Brigadier General, I was afraid. I said, when I come in here, I will see soldiers everywhere. You know, soldiers will be friends. But when I saw him with the civilian clothes, I was now happy to. I was very, very happy. The president who gave me this opportunity to contribute to knowledge based on mere recommendation without knowing me in person for capacity. I also want to thank my main man, my friend, and my former chairman. Thank you very much. My former chairman, Sir Victor Benigo. I think noble brother Victor Benigo, the chairman of planning committee of this great event, who recommended me, and my own bosom friend also, Sir Martins Azike, who also recommended me. But please let me say this before I continue. If I don't impress you, there's something I used to tell people even in my church. I tell them, just say 66. Just say 66. I just say 66. You are now laughing. So thank you very much. So just laugh, even if I am not doing well. Just say that 66 and you just laugh at me. Then I will just move on. Thank you very much. Let me state along that it is not possible for Nigerians to vote. Listen to this. It is not possible for Nigerians to vote beyond ethnicity, religion, choosing competence, character, and capacity with the way things are going. It is not possible. But we can propose some solutions. The political class in power enjoys it this way. That is the only way they can continue to win the election. Because if they vote and they allow you to vote, and don't vote your mind, a lot of them won't be in power. That is why people like us will never contest the election because I will never win. You will never vote for me. I will never win. I know I will never win. I'm not going to contest any election. I'm not going they make me a military administrator. Sorry, so administrator. I don't grab a car. I don't lie. You know what you do. You know what people do to me. That's really why I can enter there. But say voting, you won't vote for me. Even if when you want to vote for me, they will prevent you from voting for me. My learned senior have just said what they do. Even my Lord, the Honorable Justice in the it's not right. Don't blame the judges. I'm one of the advocates that defend judges. They say I defend judges, but it's true. I can you bribe the judge. You know how much this man is. You know, be bribe him. You don't fit. You can't bribe him. I know for sure. If you hear the money, you go shake. No joke, don't hear them. Everything is provided. The only people that can influence them are only the politicians. That's the truth. You can't. I think the people that you can. Yes, I can tell you that. And that is why my letter senior here said, like you want to go and bring 50 million or 190, what are you getting for this? You are dragging a line, 10 million line. For that, I told you, after the lion came for animals, lions started starving. I just pray and hope that will not be the case of Nigeria. That will not be the case of Nigeria. I just pray and hope that will not be the case of Nigeria. I think in the 2023 election, Matthew Kuka said, and I quote him, he said that Nigerians' birthright has been snatched from us. Where can we get justice after the 2023 general election. Let me go and then I'll not go into then ethnicity in Nigeria, let me say this, ethnicity in Nigeria actually started in 1954 elections. No, 51 was when the ugly head of religious, ethnicity-based politicking started. When the NCNC won majority vote in the Western House of Assembly, where AG was dominant. All of us knew what happened. To the people of history, you will know that Zik did not enjoy that victory. That was when Zik ran back to the Eastern region to come and become a premier. That's when we know that the home is home, outside is outside. That was when the ugly head of ethnicity and religion came into Nigeria. 51, then 54, the thing became escalated. Then 59, it was worse. If you look at the three political parties that contested in 1959, NPC, Nigeria People's Congress, NCNC, Nigeria Council of Cameroon, and Action Group, all of them won in their base. NCNC won Southeast. AG, won Southwest. NPC, won the North. That was what they couldn't form government under that parliamentary system of government, not the one we are practicing now, presidential. Under that parliamentary, which is modern and towards the Western, that is the British system. So I want to call the correct form government. He refused. Zik decided, okay, sir. Zik decided to form government with the North. That was why he became prime minister and a grade 2 teacher. Zik, PhD, 1934, 2 PhDs, became the president as against a grade 2 teacher. Because Sakana told him, I will not come to Lagos. I will stay in Kaduna because the regions are more powerful than the central. Go to Lagos, I will give you my board. And I gave him a for the Zik, actually Zik said, okay, I have that. And I want to become opposition. 65, he was arrested. That was the beginning of the ethnicity in Nigeria. He was arrested, put in jail. 66, they said, oh, they are going to conduct to coup game. Want to bring, I want to go to arrest several students. They want to bring him to become the president. The war started, military state, 79, the same thing came again. And for all the political parties, they are polarized towards ethnic line. So it's a very, for 50, 60 years now, so it's going to be very difficult to say we want to change it. What happened in 2023, the one we know? We saw it. The only person that made an inroad outside his jurisdiction is Obi. One was the only Lagos in one. Only Lagos. That was the only person that made that inroad. Otherwise, one southeast of the Tinubu, one southwest. So what I'm trying to say is that politics of ethnicity, Nigerians vote towards religion, and but they don't even vote towards so much under religion. It's ethnicity. Yoruba man, Igbo man, Hausa man. That is how we vote. That is what that. Then let me say this: 2027 may be worse. 2027 may be worse. But I just pray that my fairy tale will not be a reality. So recommendation. Let me just get to my recommendations. In other continents, okay, let me just go to recommendations. My recommendation is that ethnic and religious groups, it is recommended to include all ethnic and religious groups in the scheme of things in Nigeria. The ethnicity and religion create tension in Nigeria. Different groups different groups compete for power, representing different interests. That should stop. The Niger Delta region is demanding for resource control. Minority is demanding what is met with other groups. Some groups in Northwest are asking for breakup. Southeast are asking for breakup. There is need to sit down and discuss. Otherwise, we may wake up one day, like I said in my story, and we will not see Nigeria again. There is need for rotating of power. To implement power rotation requires legislation that defines modality, deepen the benefit of democracy and national integration. We also need to implement secularism in Nigerian constitution. Compliance to secularity principle in the constitution implies that every symbol that those religions in national institutions should be removed from the constitution. Like we have just said, Father Cook have mentioned that we have several places where Quran is made. It's true, it's true. And he asked the question, he said, the people that went for the conference, what we are doing when people are busy inserting their own? Why didn't you insert your own? All of them should be removed. There should be a section that will say no mention of any religion. I don't mention anyone. Don't smuggle it in. We don't need to smuggle it in. In our Naira here, why don't we have other languages in the Naira? We have Islamic scripture in the Naira. We have it in the army emblem. In one country, Nigeria is a secular country. Nigeria is not a religious country. It's a religious country. If you want to make it religious, then make it religious. Convince all of us to become one religion, you now make it religion. And all of us become Muslim, you now make it Muslim. All of us become Christian, you want to make it a Christian nation. Compliance, okay, we may also do, like the German example I mentioned. German example, let me explain it well. In Germany, if you are from River State, your wife is from Abia State. You born your child in Sokoto, your child is from Sokoto. You see, you're not from anywhere you come from. Anywhere the child is born, that's where the child comes from. So you see a parent, the mother is from Heidelberg, the father is from Darmstadt, the mother is from Heidelberg, the father is from Darmstadt, the boy is from Frankfurt or Berlin. Anywhere you born the child, that's where it comes from. That is one of the ways they try to do it after the fall of Berlin in 1990. Rwanda did the same thing. So I'm making a recommendation. So let's adopt either of these policies. From there, we can begin to go forward. For instance, parents who have said that, for me, once more, as a matter of urgency, the leadership of Nigeria should put in place electoral reform that will enable Nigerians to have free and fair election, and for them to vote beyond ethnicity and religion, choosing competence, character, and capacity, choosing leaders that will represent everybody. Then the leaders too. When we are able to choose we are not able to choose our own leader. We have never chosen a leader before. It's here, maybe when you look at it, I think copies have been made. Abiola election appears to be almost closest to free and fair election. But irrespective that they were Muslim ticket, which is another vein in Nigeria, like Tinubu and 2023, they have to make sure they beat him. But let me tell you, with the way things are going, Tinubu will win. The way things are going. He must win. He shall win. You can't do it. In my mind, must win. Nothing will happen with the way things are going. I will close with this song by Majed Fasel. Hallelujah. The way that things are going, anything might happen now. Go righteous people. Turning to unrighteous faces, turning things upside down. Oh, what a great confusion in this time of generation. Oh, Lord, what a great confusion. Take over the earth, take over the earth. Oh, righteousness, let righteousness take over the earth. Let the righteousness take over the earth.
Thank you so much. A round of applause. Pragmatic approach to the presentation. It's a wonderful one, and I believe it's piercing. As we continue to ponder over all that I said today, let us not forget that a time came in the political history of Nigeria when God sent somebody to redeem a state. The players then thought that it would be business as usual. He sent Professor Nena Oti. Let us have this, our mother, our sister in mind, each time we want to discuss the issue of politics and governance in this country. Be that Nena Oti that will be used whenever you are acting as a polling agent or whatever. Be that Nena Oti. And that's why I can say today is interesting. Having said that, it's like to invite our dear erudite, capable, able, obedient, Grand President who knows how to obey his predecessors, who knows how to do things the proper way under his leadership and that of the Grand Respected. We are trying our best to see that KSJI Grand Commander is taken to the next level. Brigadier General PMC Okeke, as he rises, let's give us first and our GRP to give us the closing remark.
St. John the Baptist. This is the only way we can communicate to our distinguished invited guests that in the night of St. John, sound is respected and is obeyed. Our dear chief host and the chief shepherd of PortHarcourt Diocese, Most Reverend Dr. Patrick Eluke, the keynote speaker, His Lordship, Most Reverend Dr. Matthew Hassan Koka, our moderator and a national figure, Dr. Adora Stephen Jack. I was listening very carefully when your citation was being read. I don't know if I was carried away, but Adora Stephen Jack, please can you stand up? Can you stand up now? Our women will be very happy to have what this our sister has done for womenhood in Africa. And if your spirit is in the spirit of all women, men will run away. Because she was among those that spearheaded the reserved seat for women in the National Assembly. And they achieved it. So because I love my wife, and because I love my mother of blessed memory, we take serious what the women in Nigeria has achieved, because the voice of the women must be heard. Sit down. Our supreme subordinates, President and SSAP, have been represented here, and also our Chartered Grand President who walked in when these symposium talks were going on. It's the man who was the Chartered Grand President when the Grand President in PortHarcourt was chartered. He's a senior lawyer, Dr. Brigadier General George Ikio Motama. Please stand up. Thank you, sir. The seeds fell on a good soil, and it has produced fruits. Our dear Grand Spiritual Director, a man who brought all of us forth. I heard when Sir Bello mentioned that you discovered him. I was also among those you discovered. And the fourth view was honesty was all about. Our revered judges, Justice Enebele, you did not only come here to deliver a speech, you also partnered in two ways. You made a pronouncements on behalf of their lordships. And I also want to announce to everyone here that he also sponsored one of the televisions that is covering this thing live without taking cover from us. Our senior advocate of Nigeria, and also Higher King. I've been trying to go through the speech of the lion and other animals. It's a very, very important message that we need to take back home. Our dear Reverend Fathers that are here, GROP, members of the Grand Board, the DCs, DOs, the WPs and RPs, brothers and sisters, and the nobles in the house. Our candidates, we recognize you. Welcome to the night of St. John International. To our organizing committee, humbly led by a noble brother, and he's a major, in case you want to address him, you address him as a major. On your feet, stand, get up. Thank you. You have done very well. And also the chairman of our initiation for this year, because they are all one package. Noble brother Nick Ogo, stand up. Thank you. So every one of you who has attended and those who has paid attention, we have been warned by various speech that has come out today. And I believe we'll go home rejuvenated, and also ideas will start coming into us on how we can join the conversation for a good Nigeria. We have encouraged you, as your Grand President and Grand Respected President, we are members of the JAC at the national level, Joint Association of Catholic Knights, where we meet with the CBCN to look at how the lay faithfuls will be part of the conversation for a good governance and good representation. Let's be involved. Let's join the conversation. I can assure you, we have retired justices, we have our own daughter and sister of PortHarcourt Diocese and of the Knight of St. John, Reverend Justice Rita Ogogo. Stand up. Stand up, my Lord. Thank you. Before I go on, I may see a personality here, which is the CWO President of PortHarcourt Diocese, Lady Rose Berborn. And other assistant organizations and leaders that we have here that have joined us. Radio Maria, we want to say thank you. AIT, we want to say thank you. We want to say thank you to PortHarcourt Diocese for giving us the opportunity to have this conversation as knights and leaders of the church. For those who want to be involved in politics, something to take away today. Justice Hill is this serving, I hope you know. If they steal your election, we'll go to his altar and we'll retrieve it. Amen? If it is hard, we will get senior advocate of Nigeria, Leche Milo, to go and do what he did in Imo State so that we can retrieve our mandate. So if we need to consult, we'll go to retired Justice Elebe and he will help us on how to retrieve our mandate. So what we have done is to create a pedestal where you can hear from them, learn from them, and be courageous. Nigeria must be better. River State must be better. Bayelsa must be better. And within the zone where we come from. So we want to thank you for the time spent. As we dismiss here, we will take on our VIPs to a separate session, only VIPs to the separate session, joined by the Charter Grand President and the SSAP representative, which is our Supreme Subordinate First Vice and other Supreme Subordinate officers and our priests and Muslim. Every other brothers and sisters, that is what to hand over to you, and we go straight to the camp. Straight to Stella Maris. Instructions are already there on what next to do. We will continue. Our worship, this is the night. The last time we went to bed was around 1 a.m. Today, it may be 3 a.m. That is the night of St. John International. The night of St. John PortHarcourt Grand has opportunity to have very senior old knights. Some of them are 41 years in the order, and also ladies who will continue to bear the cross of Jesus proudly and loudly. Before the final blessing from our Grand Spiritual Director, we will rise and we ask God to bless us through Christ our Lord. Night of St. John, I will be until I die. Night of St. John, I will be until I die. Those already into your bed, upon it. Those are yet to join, try your best to join us. We are good and we're ready to welcome Justice Kyo, Justice Nebeli, and Hayakin Esquire. We are happy to welcome you to the Catholic Church so that we can knight you immediately. What is your blessing? On this note, our Grand Spiritual Director, please will come for the closing prayers. We want to also appreciate our security agencies, those we cannot mention, working to make sure that our VIPs and every one of us are safe. We thank you, we recognize you for partnering with us and all the media houses. Thank you, and may God bless us through Christ our Lord. Amen.
I will simply bless you. We have had so much today, so I will end with a blessing. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. And may the blessing of Almighty God, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit come down on you and your families now and forevermore. Amen.
Dear brothers and sisters, this 2026 Symposium, properly fixed, has come and gone. The opening prayer was led, speeches were made, the closing prayer has been said. It's now, what is your blessing? And so shall it be recorded.
Please, if you bought the